Most of human history is a complete mystery. We've got written records for, 5,000 years, but that's just a tiny, tiny fraction of our story. The real epic, the one that actually shaped who we are today, is millions of years long, and it has no words. So let's dig in and see how we piece together this incredible story. So you gotta wonder, right? How did our ancestors, these small creatures on the huge African savanna, even navigate a world that was packed with predators and constant uncertainty? How did they go from just surviving to becoming the species that would, eventually take over the whole planet? It definitely wasn't a single event. Nope. It was a long, slow, incredible journey of evolution, with a whole lot of different branches on our family tree. To understand this time, you can't just go to a library and check out a book. We have to become detectives, piecing the story together from all the clues left behind. Things like fossils, ancient tools, and the faintest traces of million-year-old campsites. This journey had a lot of main characters. 4 million years ago, you have Australopithecus taking that first crucial step, literally, by walking upright. Then Homo habilis comes along, the handyman who started making the very first stone tools. After that, Homo erectus, with a bigger brain, becomes the first to venture out of Africa. And then finally, about 300,000 years ago, we, Homo sapiens, show up on the scene. So what was the secret sauce? What allowed our ancestors to survive and then really thrive? It wasn't just one thing. It was a whole toolkit of biological tricks and technological innovations that gave them a serious edge. And believe me, they needed every single edge they could get. Their world was an incredibly dangerous place. The fundamental problem for early humans was simple, but it was everything. How do you find food without becoming food? The first game-changing answer probably came about because the environment was changing, as dense forests started giving way to open savanna. And the simple act of standing up and walking on 2 legs, it changed everything. It seems so basic to us, but for them, it was like having a superpower. And the benefits of walking upright? They were huge. It freed up their hands to carry food and eventually to make tools. It also made traveling long distances way more efficient. And, of course, it gave them a better view over the tall grasses to spot predators before the predators spotted them. So, with their hands now free to create, our ancestors developed their very first technology: stone tools. These were simple but incredibly effective inventions that let them butcher animals, process plants, and defend themselves. This was the dawn of human innovation. Then came an innovation that was, it was almost elemental: the control of fire. All of a sudden, our ancestors could stay warm when it was cold, they could see in the dark, and they could keep predators away. But maybe its biggest impact was on what we ate. And this is where it gets really interesting. The link between fire and our evolution is just profound. See, cooking made food way easier to digest, which unlocked more calories and more nutrients. And all that extra energy fueled the growth of our most important organ, our brain.
Okay, so with bigger brains and better tools, the next big step in our evolution wasn't really biological, it was social. We started developing what you might call the social software that would end up defining our success as a species.
It's kind of wild to think about, but for over 95% of our history, we lived as hunter-gatherers. We were always on the move, following the seasons, living in these small family-based groups. And in those societies, there was no concept of wealth or status. Your survival depended completely on cooperation and sharing. It was the original team sport. But life wasn't just about survival. The fact that art started to appear shows you that these were complex, symbolic minds at work. Our ancestors were creating culture, sharing stories, and starting to ask those big questions about where they fit in the universe. This hunter-gatherer lifestyle was remarkably stable and successful. It lasted for millions of years. Then, as the last ice age ended and the climate warmed up, everything changed in what was, geologically speaking, the blink of an eye. We call it the agricultural revolution, and it was the single biggest disruption in all of human history. It all kicked off around 12,000 years ago. After millions of years of hunting and gathering, some groups of people started to do something totally new, something radical. They started farming. And the shift was total. Everything flipped. Instead of just finding food, we started growing it. Instead of a nomadic life, we built permanent homes. And our small, equal societies started being replaced by new structures based on hierarchy, and ownership.
Agriculture tied people to the land, which gave rise to the very first permanent villages. And these humble little settlements were the seeds from which all towns and cities would eventually grow.
Now, it's easy to think of prehistory as, ancient and irrelevant, but the decisions made way back then, they laid the foundation for the entire world we live in today. Farming created this incredible chain reaction. For the first time ever, we had a surplus of food. This led to population growth, and with more food and more people, not everybody had to be a farmer anymore, which led to a division of labor. But this also created totally new concepts: private property, wealth, and for the very first time, social inequality. So when you look back on this 3 million-year journey, a few key things really stand out. Innovation is clearly in our DNA, from the very first stone tool all the way to modern technology. Cooperation has always been our ultimate survival strategy. And the agricultural revolution, for better or for worse, set the stage for civilization as we know it. Which leaves us with a final and pretty provocative question. This huge transformation gave us cities, writing, art, and science, but it also gave us social hierarchies, inequality, and new kinds of conflict. So, was it humanity's greatest step forward, or did we trade a certain kind of freedom for a security that came at a very, very high price? Really makes you think, doesn't it?